Hello, and welcome to the Speak 30 Challenge. This is day 30. I call this one a better speaker. Well, it is day 30. I made it to the end of the Speak 30 Challenge. For the last 30 days, I have written and presented a new speech every day. This gets me back to my ultimate goal that I set out to accomplish at the beginning. To stand before you today with an after picture, as opposed to my before picture, and answer the question, am I a better speaker today? Before I answer that question, let me run through a few highlights from the last month. During the month of November 2022, I created and presented 30 original speeches. Every speech that was given was created on the same day that it was delivered. I did not have a long list of prepared topics in advance, and except for the 4 days when I gave speeches on each of my family members and what I'm thankful for each of them, that happened during Thanksgiving week, I had no idea the night before, or really until I sat down at the computer, what it was that I was going to start writing a speech about. I don't have the exact stats, but I would guess that each of my speech written out was on average about 700 words. So that works out to a roughly 21,000 words, or approximately 50 pages of text written out. My speeches, when presented on YouTube, averaged, well, we'll say 7.5 minutes. It was probably more, but to make the math easier, I'm going to use 7.5 minutes. So if you multiply that out, that's almost 4 hours of content on YouTube. And this is just what the world needed. Some random guy musing on YouTube for 4 hours. Nailed it. If I had to guess, between writing the speeches, revising, practicing, delivering the speeches, and doing the technical things to get them up on my WordPress blog and then onto a podcast, I probably averaged about 2.5 hours per day over the 30 days, which means about 75 hours. Now, on to a few of the lowlights, as it were. What could I have been doing with the equivalent 75 hours that I spent creating and delivering speeches? Or maybe a better question, the more important question is, how much time do I waste in a given day if I could undertake this 30-day challenge with really not much noticeable difference to the rest of my life? A few other things did not go as well as planned when giving the speeches. Some of my speeches were a little bit meh. I realized that many of the topics that I spoke on were rehashing other people's points of view or other people's ideas. And I hope that I gave the appropriate credit where credit was due. And if I didn't, I apologize. Also, there is always some part of you when you do something like this, or maybe it's just me, that thinks, oh, every one of these videos is going to go absolutely viral. And soon enough, after this challenge is done, I'm going to be sitting in a chair across from Oprah talking about my 30-day challenge. And I can safely say with a high degree of certainty that is not going to happen. And that my YouTube videos that I posted were watched by me most of the time, and maybe occasionally my wife. And that is about it. I also had a few speeches where something went wrong. Like I had technical problems, like bad audio, or interruptions, like the time during the middle of a speech when my dog threw up on my foot. Also, while it was good to have a reason to resurrect my old podcast dialogueondialogue.com. From the elephant graveyard, editing and uploading podcasts is a lot of work. My hat's off to the people who do that well at a high level and for a living. It's a tough job. Now on to the key question. Was it worth it? Am I a better speaker today than I was 30 days ago? The short answer, I would say, is yes, but not exactly the reasons I thought when I started out. As I mentioned, I wrote out all of my speeches for this challenge. There was no jot down a few bullet points and then speak extemporaneously for 5 to 7 minutes while working on your body language and your delivery of your speech. It was not a 30-day series of TED Talks, for sure. Where was my growth? I realized that I can produce a 5 to 7 or 8 or sometimes even 9-minute talk with about an hour or so of prep time, even if I had zero idea what I was going to talk about when I sat down at the computer. Some days, I would struggle to come up with topics to discuss, and other days they were flowing out of me like mad. I think one thing that I learned is that because this is a really low-stakes challenge, it doesn't really matter what I was going to talk about. The speeches that I enjoyed the most were the ones where I got to tell a bit of myself, tell about my family, tell a story. These were the ones that went from giving a speech to transforming it into actually telling a story. Even small anecdotes within speeches were often my favorite parts that I delivered, and I feel like when I looked back were some of the parts that I did the best. I also got comfortable with hitting the button for live stream to YouTube on my recording software. When it came time to actually give the speech, I would practice it once, maybe twice, and then hit record. This is where doing something every day and frequently really helped me. There does not need to be a ton of buildup, a lot of pressure. Everything doesn't need to be picture perfect. Just jump right in with both feet and go after it. And another thing that I realized was I actually enjoyed giving the speeches. I enjoyed setting up the camera and doing the process and then hitting play and speaking to the camera. I know when I give speeches when I've given speeches at Toastmasters in the past, that I've felt this surge of energy after the speech was done. And I didn't know if it was just because the speech was done. But not until I have given speeches on a daily basis did I realize that even without knowing anybody is actually going to see it, and maybe not even me watching it again, that I enjoyed the speaking part of it. I hope that this translates into greater excitement to actually speak. And I hope this translates into less anxiety about being willing to give a speech. But most importantly, I hope this translates into a desire to look for opportunities and seek out chances and areas where I can give speeches. Well, here we are. We've come to the end of the road. I sought out originally to push myself and improve my public speaking. I sought out to do something difficult. I don't know if 1 hour is all that is needed to create a well-organized and compelling speech, but I do think it's actually enough time to create glimmers and little bits of a good speech. I don't know if practicing your speech just once or twice is the adequate amount of preparation that's needed, but it is enough time to go over your speech so that when you actually do hit record on YouTube. You can deliver it with a fair amount of confidence, inflection, vocal variety, all of that. I don't know if a 30-day rapid-fire speech-a-day approach will make anyone a great speaker. But it will help you grow your confidence and realize that we are surrounded, literally surrounded, by compelling topics that you can give a speech on and present on. In final conclusion, I don't know what tomorrow will bring as far as my speaking, but as far as the question, am I a better speaker today than I was 30 days ago? The answer